We'll call the regular city council meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Certainly. Mr. Burmeister?
Here.
Ms. Hammond?
Here.
Mr. Kittle?
Here.
Mr. Knight?
Here.
Ms. Mitchell?
Present.
Ms. Verbecki's not here at the moment. Mayor McDaniel?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item number 4, council's approval of the minutes. We had the regular city council meeting that occurred on July 10th of 2017. If there aren't any corrections, I would be open for a motion.
So moved. Support. Unless there's corrections.
All right, moved by Mr. Knight, supported by Mr. Kittle. Is there any further discussion? We are ready to vote.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Yes.
Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 5, appointments and presentation. This evening we have a Helping Hands Scholarship Award presentation. At this time, I'd like to call firefighter and Dr. Dan Wall to the podium.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. As president of the Auburn Hills Helping Hands organization, I would like to thank you for your continued support. Through many contributions of businesses and caring citizens, we're able to provide assistance to various organizations and individuals throughout the year. Originally established as the Goodfellows organization in the late 1940s, we have continued their charitable work. We currently provide burnout assistance to victims of fire, run an annual food drive that brings in over 1 ton of food, help citizens with projects and bills, provide dozens of families with Christmas, and of course, provide scholarships for education. It is an honor once again to be here to present the Arthur Peterson and Dennis Deering scholarships. I would like to thank you for taking time to recognize the achievements of 2 very deserving individuals. First, I would like to congratulate Rose Carmel Goddard for her outstanding achievements in high school and present her with the Dennis E. Deering Jr. Scholarship. Dennis was a dedicated fireman who gave his life in the service of this city. He would be honored if he was here tonight to see Ms. Goddard receive this award. The scholarship is the amount of $1,500, and Ms. Goddard, graduating from Oakland Christian Academy with a 4.0 GPA, is well deserving of this honor. During high school, she participated in the National Honor Society, peer academic tutoring, varsity basketball, and high school band, in addition to many other organizations and events. Moreover, she volunteered with Motor City Blightbusters, Gleaners Food Bank, Forgotten Harvest, and Crossroads of Michigan. She plans on attending the University of Michigan this fall. Please join me in congratulating her for all the things she achieved in high school and will continue to achieve in the rest of her life.
Excellent. Council, if you join me in the front, we'll congratulate her.
Mom wants to take lots of pictures. Awesome, thanks. You guys are so photogenic. Yeah, when we're done, absolutely. Second, we would like to recognize Jenna Castile, who will be receiving the Arthur Peterson Scholarship and also the amount of $1,500. Arthur Peterson was a beloved chief of the fire department and epitomizes giving back to the community. Jenna would make Chief Peterson proud of everything she accomplished in high school and will accomplish in life. Jenna graduated from Oakland Christian Academy with a 3.89 GPA and will be attending Oakland University in the fall. Jenna was involved with volleyball, softball, National Honor Society, and volunteered with many organizations throughout high school. Unfortunately, Jenna was unable to be here tonight as she is out of town, so accepting her scholarship on her behalf is her father, Mario Castillo. It's just, congratulations on your scholarship. All right, thank you, members of City Council. Have a wonderful evening.
All right, congratulations to the scholarship award winners, and thank you to Firefighter Wall and, of course, all the members of our fire department that are in attendance this evening. Have a great evening. Thank you. Item number 6, we have public comment. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, this portion of the agenda is reserved for anyone wishing to speak on an item that is not on this evening's agenda. We do ask, as you come through council chamber doors, that you complete a public comment form. This helps facilitate the meeting and to ensure that we have accurate information for public record. At this time, I do not have any public comment forms. However, if you did not get an opportunity to complete one and you still wish to speak, I'd ask that you please come forward at this time. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment portion of the agenda. Move on to item number 7. Ladies and gentlemen, all items are listed to be considered routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of any of these items unless the council member so requests, in which event that item will be removed from the consent agenda and then considered in its normal sequence. Council items for our consideration this evening are the receiving of our boards and commission minutes for the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, the Beautification Advisory Commission, the Tax Increment Finance Authority, and the Planning Commission, as well as a motion request to receive and place on file the amendment to the Master Land Use Plan 1500 and 1700 Brown Road, and a request for a motion to award asphalt maintenance for the Cross Creek and High Meadow. Council, the consent agenda is before us for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move to approve the consent agenda items as posted in tonight's meeting.
All right, moved by Mr. Kittle. Do we have support?
Second.
Supported by Ms. Mitchell. Any further discussion? We are ready to vote.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8 under old business, we have a request for a motion to approve the bid for site cleanup and pavement removal at 3505 and 3507 Auburn Road. Good evening, Deputy Director Herzig.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. This item is regarding the concrete removal and restoration at 3505 and 3507 Auburn Road, or the Superior Concrete and Mountain Steel sites. Staff believes the pavement removal will facilitate the development of the sites and therefore requested funding from the Auburn Hills Brownfield Redevelopment Authority to complete the project. Brownfield approved the funding and DPW solicited bids to complete the work. Adams Group was the low bid, and the representatives met with Assistant City Manager Grice and myself on site to confirm their qualifications. Staff is confident the Adams Group can complete the work and recommend awarding them the contract. Adams Group would also like to exercise the crush on site option with City Council's approval. Mr. Adam Randalls and Mr. Eric Adams are present from the Adams Group to answer any questions regarding the work. Executive Director Seimer from the Brownfield Authority and myself are also available to answer questions.
Thank you, Deputy Director Herzig. Council, any questions for staff? Mr. Knight?
Does the concrete removal remove the concrete in the right-of-way that goes on back to the fence? Or will that remain as a public right-of-way? Is that part of this bid or not?
As I understand, Mr. Knight, all of the concrete will be removed from the site except for the property owned by the other entity up front on Auburn Road, but everything else will be removed.
Okay, just a comment there. When we're doing this, we need to establish where the boundaries are and get some off our property because there is other people's property on ours.
We have OHM surveying the site prior to the demolition.
Ms. Hammond?
Quick question. I know that part of the bid says that we would allow the crushing to be done on site. Is that what they're planning on doing, or removal completely?
That is the request, yes, to crush on site.
Okay. And they're well aware of our hours of business, and we're not disturbing too many neighbors?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Director Herzig, originally, it was not the plan to crush on the site, correct?
Well, it was part of the bid language included the option to crush on site. It wasn't in the plans, however, staff feels it's probably in the best interest, the quicker to get the removal done and the less truck traffic we can send through downtown. It's probably advantageous to both the contractor and the city.
Right, will that result in additional savings to the city? Because it is different than what was originally proposed.
That is correct, but no one chose to use that option as a bid. The contractor requested it at the site meeting, and staff felt it was okay to request at least ask city council for approval to crush on site for the existing bid price.
Okay, so the price does not get reduced. I'll pause there, but go ahead and let Mr. Knight have the floor.
I assume that the bidder understands that it's a 90-day period that has to be from start to finish. That's my understanding as we reviewed this.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Ms. Rebecki.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. In what ways will the city benefit from having the crushing done on site?
I'll let the contractor explain that, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay,
Step
thank
to the
you.
podium, please.
Good evening.
Good evening, Eric Adams. The benefits of crushing are going to reduce the truck traffic by 80 outbound trucks. So, and then crushing it is more marketable. We can go eastbound on Auburn to Adams versus going westbound to the crusher. So it keeps, less trucks going through downtown and less trucks going outbound if we can crush it going eastbound. So, less truck traffic.
Right, that's a great benefit for sure. But what was the consideration in terms of not utilizing that bid option up front as opposed to now as a reconsideration?
It's just something creative that I thought of to reduce the truck traffic. Once we were awarded the job, we met out there, we talked about it. How can we help the city? How can we reduce truck traffic? How can we keep the dust down? Things that we can speed up the process. So that's just something that we thought of,
Okay.
After being awarded the job.
Okay, excellent. Mr. Burmeister?
The area that you're going to be crushing, is that going to be towards the front or just whereabouts on the property is that going to be?
That's a good question. The crusher is mobile, so it's on tracks. It's like a fifth of the size of a crusher that you have down the road in the city. And it's like creates half of the noise pollution. So we will move the crusher as we go and crush it and load the trucks. And, it's not a giant, big plant. It's just a small tracked crusher.
That was my main concern, is the noise in that area of town.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, like I said, it's 5 times, less quiet than the equivalent crusher you have,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Council, any further questions on this side? Mr. Knight?
The prevailing wind there is southwest coming across the thing. How do you handle dust control? Because when the wind's blowing, there's going to be dust because we already have a crusher in the city. And so how do you handle that? I know you'll put water down on the ground, but how do you keep the dust from going over to the northeast?
Well, that's a great question. There's a fire hydrant on the property, and we're going to get a meter with a backflow preventer. We're going to have a normal water truck that's going to keep water down on the in and outbound traffic, and then we hook water up to the actual crusher. So it's virtually a dust-free process. And then we'll have a street sweeper there as well, if needed.
John's worried about noise and I'm worried about dust, and those are the two things.
Those are
that you
both,
control.
there are concerns
fine.
too, we understand.
You know, we appreciate that you're gonna pay close attention to the dust, especially the stuff that eventually makes it out and any overflow from trucks that comes out onto Auburn Road. Obviously, we've invested a significant amount of money within that area, so we
I
don't want to
understand.
see it damaged. So, council, any further questions either for the contractor or staff at this time? All right, if not, be open for motion for the bid.
Mayor,
Mr. Knight?
I'll move to approve the site cleanup and pavement removal contract at 3505 and 3507 Auburn Road to the Adams Group, 5281 Auburn Road, Shelby Township, Michigan, 48317, in the amount of $120,167 to be funded by the Auburn Hills Brownfield Redevelopment Authority.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Knight, supported by Ms. Mitchell. Is there any further discussion? We're ready to vote.
Mr. Knight,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Verbecky,
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister,
Yes.
Ms. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Kittle,
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. All right, moving on, item 9, we have 9A, it's under new business, request for a motion to approve a 1-year extension of the site plan and the tree removal permit for Dr. Kohler's office building. Good evening, Director Cohen.
Mayor McDaniel, members of the City Council, this is a request from Dr. Harold Kohler for a 1-year site plan extension. The project was originally approved by the City Council back in August 2014. Council approved extensions in 15 and 16. Dr. Kohler wishes to build his office building, but has not started the project due to the construction costs. They're higher than he anticipated. Staff has no objection to this extension request, provided it's the final extension granted, and that's in the motion before you. So Dr. Kohler is here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Cohen. Council, any questions for staff?
Your Honor.
Ms. Mitchell?
Director Cohen, so I did read through the packet, and I think I just heard you reiterate this. Staff has requested that this be the final extension that is sought. But when we talked about it in previous years, is there an actual limit by any of our ordinance requirements that are regarding the number of extensions for a project?
No, there isn't. The longest site plan approval that we normally grant is 3 years, and that's with the PUD. Essentially, this will be a 4-year approval, which is longer than any other approval that I know that we've ever granted as a community. It's not a big risk for the city on this particular site because it's a small office building, and our hope is that he's able to build it. But if he's unable to build it during the course of next year, then he would have to go through the process again. Go back before the ZBA and then go back before the Planning Commission and City Council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any further questions? Dr. Kohler, if I could have you come forward at this time. Good evening, Doc. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Excellent. Anything you'd like to add as it relates? I know that building costs have kind of skyrocketed here, so I know the plan would probably anticipate maybe, hopefully, a decline or some leveling off here. Anything you could add?
That's exactly my thought. I talked to a number of my core partners in me. They do project development, and you know them, and actually a real estate attorney. Right now, it's peak real estate, and there's no way the economics, I'd ever recoup it.
Absolutely understood.
They anticipate if there is a cooling down, at some point, building costs can mitigate by 20 to 30%. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Excellent. Well, we definitely want to see you be successful. We obviously want to see you be able to recoup and be a viable practice within our community, so we can totally understand that. Council, any further questions for the doctor? If not, I'll be open for a motion.
I'll move to approve a 1-year extension of the site plan and tree removal permit for Dr. Kohler's office building. The approval shall expire on August 11, 2018. The applicant is advised that this extension will be the final extension granted by the City Council.
Moved by Mr. Knight,
Support.
Supported by Ms. Verbecki. Is there any further discussion or comment?
Your Honor.
Ms. Mitchell?
Just to comment, I do think I completely understand the logic in not wanting to build at this time. My only point of concern regarding this motion is that when you look up at the projections over the next year, I don't foresee construction costs decreasing over the next year. And so I really don't think that this is going to be helpful. I think we're probably going to be beyond August of 2018 if that is truly a factor in determining whether or not we're going to move forward with this plan. And it's probably just best to, if you have the flexibility in your timing, wait until things, taper off and then go back through the process at that time. But to grant extension after extension after extension, unless there's something different that some other people know on the horizon, I just don't see it. I think costs are actually going to be increasing over the next 12 months. So for that point, I'm challenged to support this particular motion.
Okay. Question, Director Cohen. So, obviously we can't predict what future councils will look like, right? And the point that this is in the motion to say that this will be the final extension granted, obviously, he could come before and ask for another extension, or are you saying that he would come before, in essence, resubmit everything and could resubmit as originally was stated in the site plan?
The purpose of the motion is to make sure that everyone understands that this will be, if this is the council's decision, the final extension. It wasn't really clear in the minutes at the last year's meeting. Some people thought that was the final extension, but it wasn't in the minutes, so we wanted to make sure it was clear. It's not uncommon for a site plan to expire and for someone to come back later on. So it's probably best that the council grants this extension in hopes that he's able to do it. If he can't, then he would go back through the process again, which we will help him through. The plans are essentially in very good shape. They probably will still apply 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and we'll help him through at that time.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you. Is there any further discussion or comment, council?
Just one question.
Sure, Ms. Hammond.
Yeah, I know I was the one last year when you were before us that said, I don't foresee it happening. And I agree with Ms. Mitchell that I don't see it happening either. And I struggled with this one and I just can't support another extension.
Okay. I guess the only comment I'll make, and I can completely understand the perspective, I just, from my standpoint, I will support this. I don't really see the harm in doing so. I don't see anything else, particularly since you own the property, right? Has no plans to do anything other. It seems like it's his great desire to build this practice there and build this building. So for me, it's kind of like a moot point. It doesn't really, I don't think it would matter one way or another. So I will support it. If there aren't any further, Mr. Knight?
I have no problem with extending 1 year but with putting the extension on, the suspension on it, because if it isn't built this year, it'll be smaller or whatever when it comes back. Because so that I don't have any problem saying, okay, we've extended this enough. But on the same token, doctor could bring back exactly the same plans and probably get them approved. But the idea is we have another shot at it because it's been a long while since we've reviewed it.
Good point, Mr. Knight. Council, any further questions? Or comments? All right, we're ready to vote.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
No.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
No.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Doctor, best of luck to you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, moving on, under new business, we have 9B. Council, it's a request for a motion to approve a special land use permit, a site plan, and a tree removal permit for 1220 Pacific Drive. Good evening, Director Cohen.
Mayor McDaniel and members of the City Council, this is a request from Jared Roth, representing JAR Development Company, to construct a 98,000 square foot speculative research and development building. This is the site today, the old former Kmart parking lot. Mr. Roth converted the food town into an Alpha R&D facility, and he'll pretty much take the parking lot and add a building in that location, improving the property. It's located on the south side of Pacific, east of Joslin. It's zone TNR. The building is anticipated to have about 60,000 square feet of office space and 38,000 square feet of warehouse. A special land use permit has been requested by Mr. Roth to allow for a potential light industrial user to move into the building. The permit would allow him flexibility when trying to market the site. It's important to note, no matter if it's industrial or high-tech, the building will look the same as you see in this picture. Will not affect the facade, whatever user goes into the building. Mr. Roth will be the developer of the project and intends to lease it. He's built a number of buildings in Auburn Hills over the past 20 years. You may remember he, 20 years ago, moved forward on a brownfield site south of Dunn Corporate Center and built the Auburn Business Park with 7 buildings in that particular park. As I mentioned, he also owns the Food Town, now the Analpha building. So the total investment to build the shell of the building is $3.85 million. There'll be more money poured into the building for the insides when the new business is selected. Construction, he hopes to start next month and it be complete in March of next year. The Planning Commission staff recommended approval of the project, and Jared Roth is here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Cohen. Council, any questions for staff? All right. At this time, Mr. Roth, if you please come forward. And Mr. Roth, just for the record, if you just state your name and title of the corporation which you represent.
Yeah, hi, Mayor and City Council. My name is Jared Roth from JAR Development Company and Pacific Holdings. I'm the owner of both companies and the developer of the site.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate your willingness to invest in our community again. Is there anything additional you'd like to add as it relates to either the special land use or the site plan?
I really just like to say, I think that I was just telling Mr. Knight as we walked up, my first spec building I did here was on Harmon Road in 1998 was when I started, and I've had a long history of doing speculative development in Auburn Hills, and I think we've had a great history together in developing some of the different properties, especially the brownfield that we did. This one was also a really great project for me to start and take on, where we transformed the Food Town into an Alpha's high-tech R&D facility. And this is kind of the phase 2 of that project in redeveloping that area to make it, I think, a really nice high-tech area. I was asking for the special assessment just to make sure, as a speculative building, that I have the most flexibility in who my tenants could be in there. But I'm hoping for a tenant similar to an Alpha or some other tenants that I have up in the area that are high tech and engineering orientated, and I think that's probably what will be there. But I've designed a lot of flexibility into this building so that I can have a numerous variety of tenants to make it as successful as make it the possibility of being successful as high as possible. So I think it should be a really nice project and a really nice addition to the city.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Council, Mr. Knight?
Mr. Roth brought his daughter today, so I told her I'd ask him a question. She's with him. It's great to see that parking lot into something constructive. I remember back in the old days when we questioned Kmart of whether they should build and so on. You will then have the frontage along Joslin as an outlot that you can develop for something else.
I don't own that property, so I only own up to the edge of that, what's now the roadway, in front of that. So I don't own that outlot, and I'm not sure if that's part of the gas station or if that's part of the old Kmart site, which is now prefix.
Yeah, and I was just curious on that about what might happen there, because you're going into half of the old parking lot. I know it was in the discussion there, and I was wondering if the line then came across, up to the road or so on. Okay.
Yeah, no.
You don't have control of that, so you can't answer it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rebecki?
There was discussion at the Planning Commission about parking, just to make sure there was sufficient parking. And I know staff did they looked into it a little bit further after the Planning Commission meeting. And in our notes, it indicated that there was sufficient parking for all the different properties. Just wanted to make sure you were good with that and that everyone was on the same page with it.
Yeah, I mean, just so you know, as a developer, my concern, and it's been a long time, but back when I developed Superior Court, there was actually the opposite discussion was, did I have too much parking? And it seems like almost all my facilities here, you're always bumping up in today's world against, do you have enough parking for the kind of user that's gonna be there? So I've made sure on this facility to have enough parking. So on each site that I own, which is the Inalpha and the new site, there's enough parking to support those buildings, and Inalpha actually has enough parking and area to support an addition onto it. And then in addition to that, there's also another parcel that I own just behind the Inalpha parcel that has room that we could even add more parking if it ever needed to be in the future. So there's plenty of parking on there. I know the way the way that Inalpha parks presently, it doesn't look like it because they just, I've been fine with them parking on the other site for right now. There's been no reason not to let them do that. And so it's easier for them to park there, so they have been. But there is parking already designated on their site that's more than adequate for them.
Thank you.
Council, any further questions? Mr. Kittle.
Mr. Roth, you had mentioned that about a previous brownfield that you developed.
Mm-hmm.
Which one? What was that?
I did Superior Court, which I believe was the first brownfield done in Auburn Hills. That was back in around 1999 or 2000, I think, is when we started it, and it was the initial brownfield we worked out with back in that was back in my first development, and then we developed Superior Court as a result, and then after that, the street just to the south of that was developed.
And then, so your speculative buildings, were those spec buildings that you?
Yes, those were, all those buildings were spec buildings. I've got 7 buildings on that court, except for the back one. The one in the back was built originally for Forcia Automotive, and I had them as a tenant before I built it. But all the other ones are speculative.
Okay. And then, I mean, this is one of those, I'm not really a spec building fan. You probably did some research on that. And, but, you know, this is one of those where, you know, we love people that want to invest and help Auburn Hills grow and partner with us and so forth. So it's a little bit of a dichotomy for me. Do you see any different, I mean, changing market conditions? Are you concerned at all about, you know, the economy slowing down relative to the type of tenant that you might be looking for?
You know, I've done a lot of research on that, and I've talked to a lot of different people, and of course, you know, I'm a smaller developer, so it's always a big concern to me. I'm not going to put my neck out on the line, and unless I'm really sure what I'm going to do. And I actually haven't done as much spec building, obviously, in the past 10 years, just because of that. But I started with, when I bought Food Town, that was speculative, and I did that ended up being a great project. I was really happy with it, and took me a long time to get comfortable with this one, but I'm very comfortable now that with the growth that's going on and the need, and there's just the availability just is not there, that with the flexibility of this building, and its site plan is 98,000 square feet, but the footprint is only 68,000 square feet. So with that big expanse of size that I could provide to someone, I'm very confident that you know, that we will be able to lease this facility.
Yeah, because that's one of the concerns. We want you to be successful too. We don't want some empty shell sitting there for a long period of time. The Food Town was a rehab, which I think was great. It turned out to be a boon to have that place because we were concerned about it sitting there for a long time as an old grocery store. You didn't have anything to do with the Kmart.
The Kmart wasn't me, no.
No, okay. Okay, thank you.
Council, any further questions? If not, open for a motion.
Your Honor.
Ms. Mitchell.
Move to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation and approve the special land use permit, site plan, and tree removal permit for 1220 Pacific Drive speculative building, subject to the conditions of the administrative review team.
All right, moved by Ms. Mitchell. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Ms. Verbecki. Is there any further discussion or comment?
Just a final
Sure,
comment,
Mr. Kittle.
Mr. Mayor. I am going to support it, and because I think this site could benefit from it. I mean, that site is part of a long-term thing that we've been stuck with. I'm glad to see that it's moving, and I hope for all the best for you with this.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
support.
Any further comments? Mr. Burmeister?
Mr. Roth, we go back quite a long way, and I was really excited to see this come through, and I think if anybody's going to make it a success, you will. But I hope this is not your last project or your last hurrah. So I just want to keep encouraging and keep building in the city.
Just point me towards the next Food Town, and I'll work on it.
Sorry, it's in Orion.
17 acres downtown.
Okay. Any further comments, council? All right. If not, we are ready to vote.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you.
Thank you very much
Mr.
for your
Roth,
time and
thank you.
support.
Thank you. Have a great evening. Not gonna say this, but I think it helped having your daughter here. Yeah, way to close the deal, honey. All right, so the next one, 9C, under new business. It's a two-part series. It's a request for a motion in a public hearing to approve the revised PUD Step 1 concept plan for Dutton Corporate Center, the PUD there, as well as a public hearing and a motion for the approval of PUD Step 2 and the site plan for Dutton Corporate Center PUD for Candlewood Suites Hotel. Director Cohen.
Mayor McDaniel, members of the City Council, as you explained, this is a two-part PUD change. The first part deals with allowing the height of the hotel, and then the second part is approving the hotel. This gives you a good feeling about how the site is starting to develop. The Kia is moving towards completion at the end of August, and if the hotel is built, it'll leave 2 sites left in the commercial portion to be completed. As part of the PUD, this kind of busy diagram it gives you a feel for what the changes are. The developer, which is RJL Equity Holdings, has requested permission for a 50-foot tall hotel instead of 40 feet, and that's the hotel that you're going to review next. And they also have asked for permission not to install the Welcome to Auburn Hills sign that's at the southeast corner of Dutton and Lapeer. That sign has a lot of utility conflicts, and also it's on the wrong side of the road, essentially, for visibility. So we agreed with them, and they gave us the proper amount, double-checked that $16,000 is appropriate for the construction of that sign, and then DPW will use that money to put a sign somewhere else in the community. The other public benefit that we had requested for the PUD change was to install the pathway along Dutton Road that's missing. That pathway, as part of the PUD revision, was put back many years, and essentially this PUD change for the hotel will move that forward. They will have to have it done prior to the hotel opening. Just as a little bit of history, some of you may remember in 2006, we amended the PUD to allow for Homewood Suites. This is the site plan. It was on par of the Kia site, and it was 4 stories tall, and they got site plan approval in 2007, and then the recession hit. And the project actually had a building permit. It was ready to go, but it never happened. So after 10 years, staff and the developer didn't think a hotel would locate there. And to our surprise, the Simona Group had looked at it and brought forward a very attractive hotel. So we all agreed that it made sense to come forward with a revision to add back the 50-foot standard to add the hotel there. So this is the hotel, and these are different perspectives. You can see the hotel is below grade from the pier, so it doesn't appear as tall as 4 stories. It's 12 feet below grade, so it feels more like a 3-story building. But it really is in scale with the strip center next to it. And we're very hopeful that this project will help bring some life to that strip center, in addition to the other lots that get developed there. It's a $10 million investment by the Simona Group, and they're here to talk about it. And they're hoping to start construction a few months after council approval and be done by winter of 2018. So representatives of both the PUD, which is RJL Equity Holdings, and also the Simona Property Group are here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Cohen. Council, any questions for staff at this time?
Mr. Cohen, there's no public hearing required for this because it was held at the Planning Commission, correct?
That's correct, yes.
All right, no questions for the petitioners? Are there any questions?
I just, a couple of
Sure.
comments. if I
Mr.
may.
Kittle?
I think this is great. I'll come out with my hammer and nail apron and start and help pound nails if I need to. I think this is a great addition to the city. It'll actually complete that strip. The Kia dealership's looking pretty darn good right now. I think this will be a catalyst to the retail center there and could spawn getting the rest of those vacancies or get some interest in that. My only concern really is that there's a hotel, 1,000 feet away on the other side of Dutton Road. But I know that the developer looks at it from a business plan standpoint and can justify the investment that they want to make. So I'm in full support of it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kittle. Mr. Beckerleg, I know it does not require a public hearing. However, it was posted. Do we need to hold a public hearing because it was posted, or are we okay without doing
You're
that?
okay without holding the public hearing?
Okay, thank you. At this time, if I could call the developer to the podium. Good evening, sir. If you could please just introduce yourself, state your name and the title of the corporation in which you represent.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for having us. My name is Steve Simona. I'm here on behalf of Simona Property Group. We really love the location, and we are excited about being part of the thriving community like Auburn Hills. And I have a few other gentlemen here with me to assist in answering any questions you might have. I have our architect, Mike Boggio, here, and our operational partner, Kenny Zaire. As Steve Cohen had mentioned, a representative on behalf of RGL Equities is here that might answer any questions you might have with respect to the PUD portion of it.
Okay, excellent. Definitely looks like a nice project. Council, any questions for the developer or a member of his team?
I asked the same question, Mr. Mayor. Do you have any concern with the competition nearby?
Well, any business is going to have competition. We think that our product is different than that product. That hotel has done very well, and we think that we are in the heart of the industrial area of the Auburn Hills community with excellent freeway access, and we're assured from our flags as well that this site is an A site, and I have the utmost confidence we're investing a huge amount of money and taking that leap of faith because we believe in the site.
And you know we have two other hotels going in on Optic Road further south, right?
We're aware, yes.
Okay, just not trying to talk you out of it here, but. Mr. Mayor, one other question is it possible that we could, the $16,000 that was earmarked for the signage, could we steer that towards the foundation for use on the amphitheater versus the DPW to create another sign?
That I'm not sure. I'm sure Mr. Beckerleg may have an answer to that or may have to look into that.
We didn't really think about that.
It just has to have, I mean, the definition is pretty vague, right, in terms of public benefit. So maybe that might be an idea.
I think the answer is yes, maybe. Which is, yeah.
All right, so we'll just put that in the motion that yes, maybe we could do that.
I think the answer is yes, you can.
Okay.
Steve has a reason to think you can. I think you can.
It definitely could. I think the reason why we suggested that they provide the money is that I know that it was a desire of the council to have an entry sign in that area of the community. So if that's not a major concern, that money could be steered towards the foundation.
So I guess we could make a motion that give you the flexibility to do either one, whatever, we deem as the best at that given time.
You could include that in the motion. Sure.
Okay. Council, any comments or discussion around that item? Ms. Hammond?
Not per se about using the money, but this was actually a very interesting reading. I mean, I sat in on the council meetings back in 2003 and the planning commission, and then sat on planning and council in 2005, and being refreshed on all this. I mean, we did away with the clock that was going to go there eventually, and I'm just glad to see this finally going to happen. So for Mr. Kittle to actually say he'd show up with a hammer and nail, because he's generally on, oh, we don't need another hotel, but so I'm excited that this is going forward and that you're actually going to make a go of it.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, one comment I'll add is, Mr. Kittle, thank you for bringing that up. I think that's a great idea to have that flexibility. I do know that there's probably also plans for other sign placements within the community too. So from my standpoint, I could go either way on it, but I would like to offer the flexibility, if we could as a council, to be able to include that to go into the Auburn Hills Community Foundation. So any comments or discussion around that, council, or does anyone have any strong feelings one way or the other? And if not, if there aren't any questions or comments, I guess we'd be open for a motion.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Hammond?
I'll move to accept the planning commission's finding and approve the revised PUD Step 1 concept plan for the Dutton Corporation Center, subject to the condition of an administrative review team and with further looking into by our attorney as far as using the money towards something other than signage.
You don't even have to do that. You can do it. So you can just say, subject to the city having the flexibility to use the money either towards the amphitheater or towards a sign.
That was the motion.
All right. Moved by Ms. Hammond. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Mr. Kittle. Is there any further discussion or comment? Mr. Knight?
Yeah, I gotta make two smart remarks. I love the letter from the hotel in Orion Township complaining that we were going to allow them things, because when that hotel was built, they took a ton of dirt out of Auburn Hills and moved it across the road because that was a common site. And we lost a lot of dirt to develop that hotel, so I don't mind throwing a little dirt on and making fun of their letter.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Knight. Council, any further comments? If not, we are ready to vote.
Ms. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Kittle,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes?
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki,
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister,
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Simona, congratulations, and thank you for your willingness to invest within our community. We wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, there's also part 2 of that motion.
Right. Okay, part 2, ready for a motion. The motion would be to approve the PUD Step 2 site plan for Dutton Corporate Center PUD, Caneywood Suites.
So moved.
Subject to conditions of the administrative review team. Moved by Mr. Burmeister.
Support.
Supported by Ms. Verbecki. Any further discussion or comment? All right, we're ready to vote.
Mr. Burmeister,
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki,
Yes.
Ms. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Kittle,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes?
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. 9D, under new business, we have a motion request to award a concrete maintenance contract and scope of construction services. Deputy Director Herzig.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. This item is the recommendation for award for the 2017-2019 concrete maintenance contract. Staff bid this contract to include work through 2019 in order to gain economies of scale and have a on-demand unit pricing for a 3-year period. Since staff will evaluate performance of the contractor year over year, we're only looking for approval for the 2017 portion of the projects. Hartwell Cement Company is the qualified low bidder and have previously completed work in the city of Auburn Hills. Staff recommends awarding the contract to Hartwell and the related engineering services detailed in the packet to OHM.
Thank you, Deputy Director Herzig. Council, any questions for staff? If not, be open for a motion.
Your Honor,
Ms. Mitchell.
move to award the 2017-2019 concrete maintenance contract construction to Hartwell Cement Company for $790,041. The construction engineering services to OHM Advisors for the not-to-exceed cost of $103,000, and materials testing to GT for the estimate of $24,000. Contract to be paid from Tifa B account number 252-736-935, period 000, in the amount of $580. General fund account 101-265-975, period 000, in the amount of $262,661, and local roads account number 203-453-988, period 000, in the amount of $117,800.
Right, moved by Ms. Mitchell. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Ms. Hammond. Any further discussion or comment? We are ready to vote.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Kittle,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes?
Ms. Verbecki,
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister,
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. 9E, request for motion to approve the scope of design engineering for Updike Road pipe burst project. Deputy Director Herzig.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. This scope of engineering design for the Updike water main was moved from 2018 to 2017 after staff learned that the 2019-2020 Road Commission project to mill and overlay Updike Road from Auburn to Perry was moved up to 2018. Staff had originally planned on aligning this water main improvement on Updike with the RCOC project to limit disruption and acquire a better value. Therefore, staff recommends moving forward with the design engineering at this time. The project includes approximately 11,000 lineal feet of 8-inch and 12-inch cast iron and asbestos cement water main, which will be pipe burst to new 16-inch HDPE, similar to the Orchards projects. It will provide better service and fire protection throughout the corridor and aligns with the city's master plan for water main upgrades. Since 65% of the water main is in Tifa District B, Tifa is sharing in the cost. The Tifa board approved their portion of the project at their last board meeting on July 11th. Staff recommends award scope of design services to OHM.
All right, thank you, Deputy Director. Council, any questions for staff? If not, open for a motion.
Your Honor.
Mr. Burmeister.
It's for the pipe burst, right? Move to approve award of design engineering services to OHM Advisors for the 2018 Updike Road pipe bursting project in the not to exceed amount of $125,000, funding to be paid from Tifa B account number 252-736-971.000 in the amount of $81,875 and water fund account number 592-536-977.001 in the amount of $43,125.
Moved by Mr. Burmeister. Do we have support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Kittle. Any further discussion?
Question.
Sure, Mr. Kittle.
Mr. Herzig, is that, since the mill and overlay on Opdyke then will be pulled ahead to 2018, does that mean that that bridge will be repaired by then that goes over the Clinton River and thus allowing our concrete making friends to exit stage west?
Tim.
We have Tim Judici here from OHM. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The Road Commission is currently soliciting federal funding to replace the bridge, and their intent is to combine it with the Updike Road project and have them both done concurrently. Haven't heard if they have secured the funding yet, but I know they are actively pursuing it. So that's their hope.
And without it, they don't fix it?
That's what they're saying.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any further comments or questions? We're ready to vote.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. 9F, request for motion to approve the installation of charge point stations. Deputy Director Herzig.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. This item is regarding the replacement of the existing and obsolete electrical vehicle charging stations with new charge point units. ChargePoint is the foremost distributor of charging stations and offers a flexible cloud-based system to meet the community needs. The packet includes information on ChargePoint units as well as locations of the existing units to be replaced. The project is completely funded by Tifa as all of the units reside in Tifa districts. Staff is only looking for permission to do the installation on city properties and rights-of-way. Executive Director Simer and I can answer any questions regarding this project.
All right, thank you. Council, any questions for staff? Mr. Kittle?
I'm full of questions tonight. With these charging stations, I mean, what's the standard as far as across the country? I mean, we provide these at no cost to the consumer, including no electricity cost. Is that correct?
That is correct, and part of the reason for the investigation was just that these do allow flexibility to charge for energy and service from the stations. There's not a whole lot. There's a few in the local area. I think, is it Fenton? Tim, Fenton has some charge points, and I think the city, Grand Rapids and Novi. The idea is to get this system will provide us reporting information, find out how much usage, who's using, when they're using, and from there, investigate and look at possibly charging for the energy.
That was gonna be my follow-on question. I know we learned a lot about DTE's metering, during the LED light conversion thing. Do we actually know what the energy consumption is for the ones we have?
No, we do not. They're not metered. They're pulled off of current energy sources. So again, that was another driving factor to figure out exactly how much energy we are using.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna go on record now. I support actually people swiping their credit card to get a charge. Thank you.
Mr. Knight?
I shall answer the question. If my volt is completely discharged and I plug it in at 110, now it'd be the same for 220 except faster. It charges overnight and it costs me $2. I'm paying 16.5 cents a kilowatt on my house bill, and when I figure it out, it costs me 4 cents a mile. So it costs about $2 for me to charge my car from nothing to about 55 miles. So I did gather that. But the second part I wanted to mention is, according, if I read this right, these things are 5 years old and they're obsolete and they're falling apart. I can't imagine. We must have got shystered on the original installations, or rusty and stuff like that. Is the new equipment that we're proposing to put in going to have a 5-year life? I'm not complaining about what you do, but I'm sure surprised that in 5 years it's gone to pot.
Mr. Knight, I'll answer that question two ways. The first stations were free of charge and installed by staff here in Auburn Hills. And the technology moves forward so quickly that those stations were the beginning of the electric charging. So they're somewhat obsolete. We're having difficulty finding parts to fix them. So the charge point stations do come with a maintenance agreement as well, an Assure plan that is hands-off. We have no maintenance. If anything goes wrong with them, charge point comes, fixes the unit, replaces the unit, at no cost to us. That's for a 5-year period. And then we can continue those maintenance contracts after that 5-year period is up. We can continue it for another 5 years.
So that we're anticipating there is a longer life of this technology, because obviously there wasn't on the first ones. And that's an observation. So you're telling me 5 years and then you can extend it. So they expect to be in business a little longer than 5 years this time. Thank you.
Part of the reason we chose ChargePoint was they were the leader in the industry, and we expect them to be around.
Okay, Ms. Hammond?
Okay, if I understand correctly, then these new ones will, if we decide to start charging customers, that can be easily added onto?
Yeah, it's simple. It's all internet-based, all through ChargePoint. If we can charge, we can not charge, we can charge certain times of the day. It's super flexible.
Okay, because I've observed vehicles, that they plug them in and they're there all day long, and that they're just sitting there for the parking spot. So I think if we charge, that people might be a little more apt to move their vehicles and move on someplace else.
Because I do not own, and the only person I do know that owns an electric vehicle is Mr. Knight. Is there a time limit that you can stay in those charging station spots?
We were putting up, I think we put up some signs asking people 4 hours or something. We discussed that.
I think I think Deputy Director Herzig has an answer.
The ChargePoint system will actually send a text message to the vehicle and tell you to move your car after a certain amount of time if it's fully charged.
But right now, we don't have any type of regulation around that.
Just signage.
Signage. And we don't really have any enforcement around that, or ability to enforce that, I guess. Is that part of an ordinance where we can enforce that? Yes. Okay. All right, that makes sense. Any further questions? All right, we're ready to vote.
Would you like
Or need a motion?
Your Honor.
Yes. Go, Ms. Mitchell.
I move to approve installation of ChargePoint units by Eco Green Energy LLC at the existing electric vehicle charging station locations.
All right, moved by Ms. Mitchell. Do we have support? Supported by Mr. Knight. Is there any further discussion? We're ready to vote.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
9G, request for motion to approve the purchase of a 100-foot ladder truck. Chief Manning, good evening.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Tonight, I'm here before you tonight to propose a purchase of a new ladder truck to replace one of our current ladder trucks, which is 20 years old. The proposed apparatus has been in the 5-year plan for some time and is scheduled for a 2018 purchase. The build time, however, for this apparatus is 365 days, so I'm here today to seek approval so that we can start the build process and take delivery of this apparatus in August. On the timeline right now, it would be August of 2018. Real quick, I'd like to do a brief overview of the current apparatus that we have, the two suppression vehicles, I should say. On the left is our current ladder truck. On the right is our engine. These two apparatus are specifically designed to perform different functions on a fire ground. The ladder truck is set up for search and rescue operations along with forcible entry, ventilation, and roof operations. Ours would also have EMS capabilities. The engine to the right, which is our newest engine in our fleet from a couple years ago, his primary role is to attack the fire. They show up with a hose and a water supply, make the initial attack on the fire while the other crew comes in and assist with the other operations. Our fleet has been modified based on our staffing model in the past. As you know, we had primarily a paid-on-call staffing model, and all 3 stations had assignment of 1 engine and 1 ladder truck. As we move forward, based on our current staffing model with all the stations staffed and what we can staff, we are reducing our fleet, proposing that we'll reduce eventually down to 2 engines and 1 ladder. This is a reduction of 1 engine and 2 ladder trucks. And the 2 ladder trucks were scheduled to be purchased in the 2019 and 2020, so that'd be a savings upcoming of over $2 million. I'm also pleased to report that the proposed purchase, if approved, our fleet will be in great position for the future. During a presentation to council back in 2015, I reported that 5 out of 9 of our apparatus was scheduled to be replaced in 2020. Due to reducing the fleet by 2 ladder trucks and the fleet updates over the past couple of years, we should not need to replace another apparatus until approximately 2024 if the proposed purchase is approved. Quick background on what a mid-mount aerial is. Tonight I'm recommending a purchase of a 100-foot mid-mount aerial. And this picture is not the photograph of the apparatus we're proposing. However, it's a very like replica. You'll notice that the ladder, the base of it is mounted in the middle of the ladder. This one that we're proposing is a 100-foot ladder. Currently, all of our ladder trucks have 75-foot ladders. In addition to the extra 25-foot of ladder, the mid-mount ladder offers us some tactical advantages over the rear-mount ladders. Since the ladder does not extend over the cab of the apparatus, the overall height of the apparatus is lower, reduces the center of gravity, improves the maneuverability under low canopies, low-hanging trees, or low-hanging wires. It is a 5-section ladder, so it makes it shorter when it's fully retracted. This allows us, we can operate in less space between two obstructions when we've got to pick it up and swing it from side to side. The side stabilizers do not have to extend out as far, so their footprint is smaller. Again, allowing us to get into reduced space. With the mid-mount ladder, the driver can pull straight into an area with a limited space or a residential driveway. With the truck facing forward, personnel are able to utilize the full length of the ladder. On our current rear-mount ladders, when we pull straight in, we lose the distance of the length of the truck just to go up over the top of the truck. This diagram is the actual proposed apparatus, a schematic drawing of it. We do not have an actual finished product. On May 11th, 2017, staff posted, I'm sorry, let me go back real quick. Our specifications primarily were to meet the NFPA standards, 2016 standards. We were asking for a 100-foot mid-mount aerial, a 2,000 gallon per minute pump, capability of carrying 500 gallons of water, foam operations with 30 gallons, an engine and transmission capable of carrying this large vehicle, which has a gross vehicle weighting of about 85,000 pounds. We added a generator and also an EMS cabinet because this vehicle will be, again, able to handle EMS runs if they're out. On May 11, 2017, staff posted a request for proposals on the Michigan Intergovernmental Trade Network, known as MITN. The request was open for 32 days with all proposals due on June 12, 2017. We only received one bid, which was from Emergency Vehicles Plus, representing Rosenbauer Fire Apparatus. The proposal meets our specifications with a price tag of $999,445. I was referred to a current open cooperative bid that the City of Rochester Hills has with Halt Fire. They are representing Pierce Fire Apparatus. The cooperative bid is very flexible in that it allows the customer to select a certain chassis to start building off of, and then such as a 100-foot aerial, and then from there you simply choose from a long list of items to add to the apparatus. I was able to use this list of options to build an apparatus that matched our specifications and all of the major components listed on our proposal from Emergency Vehicles Plus. So it was essentially an apples-to-apples comparison. The final price tag on that apparatus is $1,195,000. I'm $563, sorry. And that reflects a 6% total increase since that bid was let out in 2015. There are a couple of discount options that I was in your package. I had indicated that Finance Department was researching a potential possibility of having enough funds in the 2017 budget to cover a partial payment so that we could take advantage of some of the discount options. I've talked to the Director of Finance, and she's indicated that there is enough funds to handle a 50% prepay. However, she was recommending that we take advantage of the second option, which was not in your package. I was not aware at the time, but it's basically payment as we go plan. Michelle's indicated that she would like to hold on to the $500,000 and then pay as we go, which would be, once the chassis is completed, we would have a payment of $318,000, a little more. And then once the aerial is completed, it'd be another $311,000 payment. On that plan, both of those would be made out of the 2018 budget, where these dollars are budgeted for this apparatus, and the discount is $18,945, or just a little bit more than what the 50% prepay would be. The warranties on from the two manufacturers are pretty similar. However, Rosenbauer has extended their warranty on the body up to 20 years. Pierce is at a 10. All other areas are compatible, the same, except for paint. Paint has a 10-year warranty on the Rosenbauer, which is not prorated. On the Pierce, you go through a proration, depending on how long you've had the vehicle before they decide how much they're going to fix. Rosenbauer has a long history. It's one of the world's leading manufacturer of fire apparatus, of over 140 years of experience, sales and customers all over 100 countries. Over 2,000 vehicles are produced worldwide annually. The Rosenbauer South Dakota, which we have dealt with in the past when we ordered our engine 2 years ago, is located in Lyons, South Dakota, 183,000 square foot facility. They produce an average of 50 units a month. They began manufacturing fire apparatus in 1979 and combined with Rosenbauer in 1998. They are rated by Dun & Bradstreet. Emergency Vehicles Plus, which we have dealt with on a few vehicles now, again, going back to the engine that we ordered, but we've also dealt with them, their other division, the ambulance division, where we've ordered 2 ambulances, as well as had one of our ambulances refurbed, remounted. The service to Emergency Vehicles Plus has been excellent. We've had no issues with them responding to our request for service and any concerns that we may have, as well as our relationship with Rosenbauer. We've had great relationship with both of these companies, and I have no issues or concerns about continuing that relationship on this purchase. Present tonight is Bob Coulter from Emergency Vehicles Plus, as well as Roger Parker, who is a representative from Rosenbauer. And at this time, we all stand ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you for the overview and the very thorough presentation. Council, any questions for the Chief? Ms. Rebecki?
As far as the ladder height, this one that you're recommending was 100 feet?
That's correct.
Okay, and is that what is the largest, I guess, made? How high can we go, and is that high enough in your opinion?
For our general purposes, yes, I think that's high enough. Obviously, the cost goes up considerably when you get into the higher ones. There's a very large one that has an articulable stick that can articulate. That is, they call it the Bronco or something like that. It's probably, I don't know. You have any idea how much one of those would cost? One of the articulating arms, it goes up even higher. The Bronco, it's a massive one. Birmingham has one. but it would cost a lot more, and we would have very limited use for something that size. I mean, at some point, they're nice to get up at that higher distance, but it's really not that practical.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe at this time, it'd be good to have Mr. Coulter or Mr. Parker come forward to just answer any questions that may be presented around the actual apparatus itself. Council, do you have any further questions as they're coming forward? Mr. Knight?
I was watching the slides up there and I saw Rosenbauer up there. It said 20 years on the cab structure, and on my presentation it says 10. Now, did I miss that?
It was 20 years on the body and 10 years on the cab structure. Rosenbauer's 20 years on the body, 10 years on the cab structure.
Added to over the one that I had here. The second thing is, we talked, this is philosophy, not yet for these folks. We rejected buying a truck from Clark's or from Independence Township, and that was a pumper. Was it not that we originally thought about buying and then decided not to?
That is correct. That was a pumper, or what we refer to as an engine, but yes. And that, if we go back, me and Mr. Tangi had a conversation about that with the new staffing proposal coming forward. And again, going back to what we can staff and what we can operate out of our stations, what we have at the outstations, call them jump stations. They can only operate one vehicle at a time, right? So we thought that it was feasible to go ahead and reduce the fleet in that way. And we also have a working relationship with Rochester Hills with coverage in the south end. And I have that map here. I thought this might come up. You might find this interesting. 2.5 miles from of coverage in Auburn Hills is on the left, and on the right is the coverage from Station 4. I'm sorry, is this one? Yeah, this is Station 4 on Walton and Adams and our station. You can see where the bleed over is for the coverage. So we would have an engine here, and we could use their backup ladder, which is just a little over 2 miles away from our station. On the other end of town, in the south end, we also, you see again the bleed over from Station 3, Rochester Hills, into the Auburn corridor to the north and south of that. Again, they have a ladder at that location, and we would have an engine.
Okay, that's fine. I brought that up because I walked away from that meeting is that we didn't have any more fire trucks in the plant. I didn't realize this thing was still in there because I got the warm, fuzzy feeling, well, we're not going to buy that truck. We don't need it, and we're all right. And we don't need anything more. So I was just kind of surprised that this ladder truck came up. And it just surprised me, not that I'm against it or anything, but it was just interesting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Knight. Mr. Burmeister?
I have several questions. First off, I found it odd that only one company chose to bid on this apparatus. Was there anything specific in the bid packet that Rosenbauer that Rosenbauer had and nobody else did?
No, I can't speak for all the other representatives. I did get a call from one representative who his first question, well, he asked a couple questions about the bid packet, and then his closing question was, who'd you buy your last apparatus from? How long ago was that? And how do you like that truck? So right now, I am talking to even Halt Fire, and why, they referred me to the Rochester Hills open bid. The economy is good. The municipalities are spending money, and if somebody knows that, even though we kept our bid as general as possible to try to keep it open and to draw in as many bids as we could, it's quite a bit of work to put a bid together. It's hundreds of pages, and if a company feels that, just or unjust, that you have a relationship with another company already on your last apparatus and you're happy with that, the time and energy to go into that bid package is considerable. So I'm only speculating on that based on some light conversation with some of our vendors.
Okay, which brings me to the next question. It sounds like you're very happy with the last Rosenbauer we got. When you purchased that, or when we purchased that, how many days has that been out of service? Since 2015 or 16, did I see?
I don't have that exact date. We have had, it has been out of service like all of our other vehicles, but I can get that for you though.
Was there any significant issues with that?
Yes, we have had a issue with some cracking on the back of the body. In a weld failed on the back of the body, which produced a crack to the rear of the body. That has been addressed. Rosenbauer has been very forthcoming and speaking to that. As a matter of fact, I spoke with the CEO who flew in and apologized for that and took all responsibility that they researched their processes and it came down to a human error, not a design flaw. They're confident in that it will be is repaired. They've extended the warranty on that apparatus also, an additional 10 years for that on the body, to make sure that we're comfortable with their equipment. At this point, I would still feel very comfortable with moving forward.
Okay, how long was that out of service at that point in time? And did you or the department have to take it back to, I'm sorry, I didn't see where your location was.
South Dakota, no, we did go back to South Dakota for that repair, yes, and it went back, Chief Macias, what was it, approximately a month, 30 days? I'm guesstimating at this point, but I can get that data for you on exactly how long it was.
Is maybe the representative from Rosenbauer, can he speak to that at all, just to see if we can?
Just to clarify, I'm Roger Parker with Rosenbauer, and I'm the Central Regional Sales Manager. Yeah, we did have a flaw. It was a human error. Some bolts weren't put in the right spot. There were some gussets that weren't put in correctly, and there's some welds done wrong. And as we expand our business and grow our business, we have to hire new people in the training. One new guy got a little hesitant, and an inspection to get made in the quality control process. My boss, the CEO of our company, flew out here, I believe, last week, talked to the chief and all the members, and basically assured him and extended the warranty out even an extra 10 years to make sure that this won't happen again. We did bring the truck back at our cost. We did also go through the entire truck, and we also flew your representative out to make sure the final inspection was done again. We take pride in what we build, and we want to make sure that we have a long-lasting relationship with the city of Auburn Hills. So if there's any other questions, I'll answer them.
Thank you for that, sir. Mr. Burmeister?
Okay, I'm pretty satisfied with, was that the only thing that had to be fixed on that vehicle?
At that time, that was it. I think there was a couple of little modifications that we did also that the department wanted to do, so we did it at that time.
Okay, does Emergency Vehicles Plus come out to the site to fix most of it? I understand that the crack or the weld crack, couldn't do.
That was something that we wanted to see back at our factory to make sure that we understood what it was. So most of the time, Emergency Vehicles Plus can fix everything at the station, but when it's something like that, that's a structure, we wanted to bring it back to make sure it was done right.
No, I understand they can fix most of it at the station. What's your response time to once a item is broken?
I'll let Mr. Coulter answer that.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
My name is Bob Coulter. I'm a sales manager for Emergency Vehicles Plus. In answer to your question, Mr. Burmeister, that response time to an incident depends on what's wrong with the truck. If the truck's out of service and won't function as a fire truck, as your background, you're quite familiar with that, we'll have somebody here within 6 to 8 hours to diagnose and go to fix the problem. 95% of all issues on the apparatus could be fixed in-house. In-house meaning at your station. Our mechanics are EVT certified masters. They're ASE masters as far as on the automotive side. So everything can be done. They're totally equipped when they show up. If you ever saw their vehicles, I keep telling them, I wish you'd leave your keys in and I'd like to take it home, but they won't do that.
Okay, you mentioned our site plans are developed with turning radiuses, and Mr. Judici, I don't know, or Chief, either Chief, the turning radius compared to what what we have for our site plan templates, or the templates for our site plan, is the turning radius any different, wheelbase differences?
There is a wheelbase difference in this apparatus. It's a larger wheelbase, so there is a turning radius difference. We've taken that into consideration, and we still feel that the benefits of the extended stick of 100 feet, as well as the ability to have a mid-mount and drive straight in are considerable. We still know that there are options. I mean, obstacles in parking lots that we have to get around. Our current inspectors are working on with OHM to get another template set up for this apparatus.
My only concern is that most of the site plans were designed for what I'm assuming was a smaller wheelbase, and now that the city's about 90% built out, my concern is getting the apparatus into the site.
I understand that concern, and I share that with you. On several of our sites, even when right now we have access to them, but our ladder truck is not able to reach the top of it due to the setbacks, such as even the accounting plant Moran building. We had a fire at the top of that building. It's been a little while back, but because of the landscaping and the parking lot structure, we were just about 10 feet short of reaching the roof with our ladder truck. So there's other areas where I still feel that this, we can definitely make sure that we know the areas where we have our challenges for access points, as we do now with our current trucks, and we can come up with a pre-plan to make sure that we're able to address those issues should we have a problem at that building.
Okay, I just got two more. It says outrigger reduction. You said the outriggers do not extend as far as the other one. What's the difference, the width difference? How much less do they extend?
I don't have the numbers on the rear mount 100-foot platform. I can just tell you that from listing and researching this, that was a common benefit that was listed on a mid-mount, was that the footprint required, because it's a lower apparatus, it's not as high as a rear mount, and because of that center of gravity being lower, they do not require that our stabilizers go out as far.
The representative from Rosenbauer, do you know the answer to that? Definitive.
What I'm looking at right now is, I believe it's a 15.6-foot width at the front, and I believe it's like 14-something at the rear. The one thing that we do differently that nobody else can do is we call our aerials are smart ladders. We actually read where the outriggers are at compared to where the ladder's at. So if you have a car parked in a certain area and you can short jack your ladder, that ladder knows what it can do and what it can't do as far as full capacity over to the swing to the short side. So let's say we're at 50% out of your outriggers. We can go out, and so if your normal outreach is 96 feet to the side, we'll be able to go out approximately 43 feet. So you can still swing over to the short jack side and still have full stability and full capabilities of that up until your 50% capacity. So it's always thinking where that outrigger's at. We're the only one on the market that has that available. So I'm doing a sales job to you too, at the same time.
It's interesting, I just, when you're, I guess, adjusting that outreach, does it tell the operator to stop, or does it stop automatically?
It stops automatically.
Oh, that's it, okay.
It's all done with a screen that you see. When you put your outrigger out at the back of the truck, it will tell you exactly where you're at with that and how long a reach you'll have. So the operator knows before he even sets the truck up how far to the side he can go.
So in the competition, it's literally up to the operator to make that determination.
The way NFPA says, which are guidelines that we have to build to, anything going to the short jack side, you have to be able to stop it or control it. Most of the competition, once it gets off to -10 or a rotation of 10 degrees either side, it'll stop the ladder. It's a two-man operation to get it back into the swing of things. Ours sits there and basically watches all the stability of the ladder, the outriggers and replacement of the outriggers, and it'll stop it at full capacity. So if you've got 500-pound tip load and flowing 1,000 gallons of water, it'll bring it off to the side, it'll stop. The only way you can correct it is to either go up or retract it to get back into a safe zone and bring it back.
Oh, what a nice
you still
feature.
have the full capacity when you stop.
Okay, thank you for that
The
information.
short jack side?
That's on the short jack side, yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Chief Manning, the location, you said it's going to be at Station 2, is that correct?
The ladder truck will be assigned to Station 3.
Oh, that's perfect, because I just heard that Rochester Hills has their ladder at 4, and I didn't hear Mr. Knight's question. So that's great, thank you. I'm very impressed with the truck, I like it. Does it have a bucket on it?
No, it's a straight stick with the nozzle at the end. It is remote control. The firefighter can stand up to 200 feet away and operate the truck with the remote control.
I can guarantee if you bring it up here and put it 100 feet up, I won't be anywhere near the tip.
All set, Mr. Burmeister? Yes. Okay, Ms. Rebecki?
Thank you. I was wondering if the representatives could explain your warranty process and how, is it prorated for certain items or paint, body? I mean, how does that work? Or is it not prorated?
The way we've done it, and we've always been that way, is none of it's prorated. All of it is a full warranty. So when we say 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it's the full length of it. So in your 19 years and 364 days, something comes up, you'll still get the full warranty, as long as you report it in the process. And that's got to be done through our dealer network.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Excellent. Ms. Mitchell?
Just a couple comments. First, I wanted to compliment staff on the information that you put together in our packet. It's very detailed. It's summarized well and easy to follow. So thank you for taking the time to prepare it to the level that you did. Then second, I just wanted to make the comment that there are times when you purchase something of this nature and you have a quality concern and it's disappointing, right? But I think that the response that you get from the manufacturer or the vendor or the seller, once you have that experience, the fact that someone will take ownership of it, will stand behind it, will operate integrity, can actually result in the summary of your experience actually exceeding your expectations and result in you being open and receptive to continuing to do business with that person. And I think that that is what staff is bringing forward to us today. So my compliments to you on how you handled the previous situation, and I just wanted to provide those comments.
Excellent comments there, Ms. Mitchell. Mr. Knight?
I was back when we bought the 2 ladder trucks that were eventually phasing out. And I was sold at that time that by having a 2-axle truck, we could get in closer and we could get up and it saved money in that. Now I'm hearing we need a tandem axle, longer, harder to maneuver truck because it's longer, and so you can be farther away and still get to the same thing. Am I saying that right? Because the philosophy's changed here. We went from quick and easy to maneuver and so on. I was sold at that time, and that obviously was before your time. But now you're telling me I need a big, long truck because of the flexibility of the 100-foot. And that's not adversarial. I just want to make sure when somebody says, why are you buying that big truck? I have an answer.
Mr. Knight, that's a very good observation. And even though I wasn't on that purchase, I agree with that comment that certainly our current ladder trucks are shorter wheelbase, so they are easier to handle. There's no denying that. This is a bigger truck, but I'm confident through training and pre-planning we'll be prepared. I have, even though City Council has been diligent in restricting heights of buildings and whatnot, we run into terrain issues quite commonly, especially up in the north end, where some of the developers try to pack as much, understandably, pack as much square footage on a which gives us some limitations. With that, we run into multiple situations where either because parking space out further away from certainly are challenges with the larger truck, and that everything they said, I agree with. But I think at this point, the way the city is developed, this apparatus also offers a 2,000 gallons per minute pump, which is larger than our current trucks. And if we were to have a large fire in a commercial building where the sprinkler system didn't handle it, it's all about gallons per minute, how many gallons we can put on that BTU. So that's another added point to this apparatus.
One other one. We're going to keep one of the ladder trucks in reserve. Does that mean, that means it'll be just parked in one of our stations, or will it be stored someplace?
It'll be stored at our station. It'll be checked out regularly every week. It'll be checked and run and gone through. And our trucks are annually, with annual testing on the ladder trucks and or other regular preventative maintenance, we're continuously right now rotating trucks in and out. So it'll be used in service. It just won't be the primary vehicle.
Okay, yep, not primary use, but it'll always be available to use. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Mr. Kittle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What is the delivery timing for this truck?
It's 365 days from the time we do the pre-construction meeting, which means we meet with their engineers out at their facility, and we go through every nut and bolt, from the lug nuts to the nuts that hold the nozzle at the end of the ladder. And we go through everything with that. From that date, it's my understanding, it's 365 days. Based on our timeline now, if this is approved here today and signing the contract, we would put us into August, so we're looking at August of 2018 for delivery.
Thank you. On the prepay, payment options in there, what if you don't put anything down? What are the other options?
If we don't put anything down, we can utilize the option of using the sort of pay-as-you-go plan. Once they hit certain timelines, or benchmarks, I should say, once the chassis is completed, we could pay a payment of $318,000. And then once they completed the aerial portion of it, there'd be another $311,000 payment, which they indicated on a timeline. If this is signed in August, they would anticipate a March, April timeline for those two payments. So therefore, we would gain a discount of almost $19,000.
Yeah, I don't know that the discount's that significant, and if it's even worth it. I lost track of, through all the presentations we've had on public safety, we were eliminating, I think you said 2 ladders or 2 trucks?
2 ladder, I call them ladder trucks, but yes, we will be limiting 2 future purchases that would, if we were continue with our old model of having 2 suppression apparatus at each station, we're eliminating 2 ladder trucks. We've already reduced 1 engine that was highly problematic with maintenance issues some time ago, and we haven't replaced that. So really, we're going down a total of 3 apparatus compared to where we were 5 years ago.
Will we be retaining this truck after delivery, or will this one be sold, or what is the?
We currently have 3 ladder trucks. We would sell 1. And then as we made sure that we go through our inspection process and that one, we have no issues, we would put another one up for sale, so we'd retain 1 of our current ladder trucks.
Who else has a 100-foot ladder truck in this area?
Rochester Hills has a ladder truck to the east of us, and Lake Orion has I believe, a very similar 100-foot truck too to the north of us.
They both have 100-footers as well?
I think Rochester Hills might be a little longer, 105, I believe. I'm not positive on that, but it may be, for some reason I want to say it's 105. I believe Lake Orion is 100-foot, and it's a Rosenbauer.
Gentlemen that are manufacturing and selling the truck, have you delivered in Southeast Michigan, have you delivered any like trucks that we're purchasing here? Recently?
Sir, if I could have you come stand at the podium, please.
To answer your question, yes, we have delivered units in the area. Recently, a couple of the most recent would be Orion Township, would be a 100-foot mid-mount of the same nature of the truck that you're looking at. City of Plymouth and Northville City combined is one fire authority, and they purchased a 101-foot rear mount aerial. We have other aerials that have been sold throughout the state and stuff. So,
the Orion Township and the combined Plymouth Northville one, do you recall how much those sold for?
The Orion was very close to what yours was. Northville Plymouth, I'd have to go back and look.
I'm just curious, did we check into those at all and compare apples to apples?
To To my understanding, the Orion one, I don't know about the Plymouth Township one, but yes, I went up and went through the Orion truck, and I think it was a little bit less than this. However, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, that was a demo unit also, so it came with a little bit of road miles on it. Not that it was damaged at all, but it came after it toured the states and was put in service there, and they took a discount because of the demo. The Plymouth Township, I can't speak to that.
All right, thank you, sir. The, just two other comments then, really. It's, to me, you said a couple of key things in it, you know, that I've always been one that I think that we need to up our game as far as procurement, a role or strategy or that sort of thing. You made a couple of key comments to me is that, you know, one bidder backed out because he thought that we were, you know, warmed up or, you know, we're so satisfied with the manufacturer of the truck that we have that they bowed out. So in my world, if I was going out for a bid on something and we get one bid, to me, that's a message that there was something wrong with the bid and you should actually rebid it. I was looking, there's 38 manufacturers of fire apparatuses across the country. And for us to put an RFP out and we get one bid, to me, that, you know, did we get the best value? You know, it sounds like a heck of a piece of equipment, and the price, I mean, I really have no reference. That doesn't seem bad, I guess, but I'm guessing. And fair price. All right, you know, not to doubt the strategy, but, you know, if we're going to go out and procure things, we want to try to get as many people participating in the bids as possible. And in 100-page bid, you know, where it's just, I struggle with that, Tom, and I'll continue to hit that drum periodically as long as I'm on council, because I just think it's a missed opportunity. But I do think you did, you know, great research, the presentation, Jim, you've always been outstanding through all this analysis that we've done from 24-hour shifts to vehicles and so forth. But I just wish that we had more data points to be able to measure from.
I understand your frustration with that, and trust me, when I showed up at the bid opening, we only had one. I was just as frustrated, and I knew we would have this conversation.
To me, I'd wait and go out and bid it again. I mean,
All right, Mr. Knight.
I note on the bottom of my thing here, it says the Finance Department is currently evaluating the 2017 fleet budget to determine if there is sufficient funds to cover a prepay option. My opinion is, I don't care whether there's money in that account or not. We've got money and we can borrow it from another fund and give them the savings. But it should not be so sacrosanct that it's got to come out of the fire or the apparatus or the fleet budget if it makes sense to save the money by prepaying, if it makes sense. We certainly can borrow money from one of our funds to utilize the savings and give them the thing, but I was just kind of curious. It shouldn't be limited. The savings on Operations to Save Fund shouldn't be limited because it's one account or another. Just a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Mr. Kittle.
I would just, if we went down any prepay option, then I think there's got to be some sort of a performance clause in it, that if the delivery goes beyond the expected delivery date, that some money comes back.
Anybody have anything additional around that? No, Mr. Burmeister?
Was there any dollars, or how much do you think the anticipated sale of the 2 used apparatus is going to generate? Do you have any feelers out there from Brindle Mountain or whatever it is? Excuse me, the one.
I don't have that at this time. I can tell you on our last engine, which was a Westate, which if you're looking at trying to sell a used vehicle, a Cadillac being the Pierce and or a Westate's would be down on the Yugo end. So we got $30,000 for that. But the E1s are reputable apparatus, and I don't know if Bob can speak to that from his experience, but I would just be guesstimating at this point. Knowing that we got $30,000 for that apparatus, I would expect 50 to 100, just guesstimating again. That's just, I'm not a broker by any means, so they are fairly reliable. They have been over the years. They've been good apparatus. We currently went through our ladder testing, annual ladder testing. One of them failed. It's out getting some seals replaced in the ladder so that it can go back in service. But overall, they've been good apparatus.
Was there any lease options given, or that is even a consideration that council would want to consider?
I did not go down that road. It's been my experience with council, unless the attitude has changed, that we have not been a lease municipality, so I did not explore that option.
All right. Council, any further questions? Mr. Knight?
Mr. Kittle, I'm going to agree with you. I'm wondering, maybe Mr. Tangi, I'm going to put you on the spot. Should we rebid this? Or is it a case of because we got prices, they'll all raise the prices or so on? But I heard some reasonableness in what Mr. Kittle was saying. If we got an outstanding buy and so on, okay, we need now. But buying it 2 months from now, if that's a penalty, I'm saying, should we just go ahead with this, or should we rebid it? What's your opinion on that one, Mr. Tangi, from your experience?
Well, you're right. You're putting me on the spot. So I think what you risk at this point is getting the same result and a higher price. And that's about as forthright as I could be about it. You know, could you possibly get 1 or 2 more bids? I suppose that's, you know, there's a potential of that. I think the message you would send to the industry is if we rejected it at knowing there was just one, you might actually inch the price up.
I guess for me, Mr. Knight, if, you know, one, if I had not spoken with firefighters around, you know, Rosenbauer, Pierce, and I know there's pros and cons. I mean, the presentation that I was presented today, right, I thought was very thorough. As Ms. Mitchell had alluded to earlier in terms of how they respond to a warranty issue, you know, for me, I will actually pay more if someone is willing to stand behind their product. And I know that, you know, obviously how they react to something, you know, in the past, right, will be a future predictor of how they might do things in the future. And so I would feel even more comfortable, you know, doing business with them because they did stand behind it. And knowing that they're even going to probably pay a little bit more close attention when they're building this ladder to make certain that they don't have to have this conversation with the chief or the staff again. Not only based on conversations with the fire department personnel or certain fire department personnel, but, you know, former Chief Burmeister has a lot of experience as well. And with his depth of knowledge on this as well, and him, you know, in essence being comfortable with this, you know, all of those things accompanying the fact that this would likely probably increase the price if we were to go out. And in addition, I feel that this is an apparatus that we absolutely need, that we don't want to necessarily wait on. I don't want to prolong the purchase of this. We're moving in a great rapid direction, in the right direction to get the fire department fully staffed with 24-hour shifts, and I want to make sure that they have the tools to ensure that you know, they can perform their job to the highest level. So for those reasons, I am comfortable with the presentation and the motion as presented.
Your Honor, just to echo some of what you said, from what I've been seeing lately in the industry, it's right around $1 million for a 100-foot aerial, give or take 100,000 either way. I too was concerned when I only saw one bid submitted, which I was kind of shocked at, but not surprised. So I guess in seeing where you're putting this, I'm in full agreement that it should go up to Station 3, where most of our residential, or where a lot of our apartment complexes are, or a large apartment complex with difficult access to the roofs, which would be my main concern. Most of the buildings now commercial in the city are sprinkled. The apartments where, for a while there, we were known as Apartment Fire City throughout the surrounding communities, because every time we turned around, there was an apartment fire. So I'm in favor of this, and I think the due diligence is there. Most of my questions were answered fully, and you're gonna pay $1 million, one way or the other, right around there, give or take. And I would really not want to see another West States type vehicle here. You may have 89 manufacturers, but 38 manufacturers, but we learned was West States.
Well, I appreciate your input because I wanted to, kind of feel, should I or shouldn't I? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor? And one thing I'm going to add, Mr. Tanchi, and then I'll let you, is, I think it also says something too, right, that, two of the departments that I would say that we work the most with, right, it would be Rochester Hills and Orion, and both of them have, chosen to utilize a Rosenbauer ladder truck as well. I know that is another discussion that Mr. Kittle would like to get involved with in terms of regionalization, but I think, at the point of us needing this piece of equipment, and, now is the time we really need to act on it. And then let me turn it over to Mr. Tangi, and then I'll go back to Mr. Kittle.
Well, just real quick, I'm going to ask Chief Manning to go back to the comparison of the other truck when you matched our specs to the other one. And maybe that just provides you a little bit more comfort level. But I think he said that he spec'd it against the Pierce there.
I did, and I was actually referred to this by a Pierce representative, this open bid that's out there right now that anyone could go from. And there's only so many certain components, unless you really want to get specialized, that you can put on a fire truck. They have an engine, obviously transmission, they have that pump. There's only two kinds of pumps, a hail and waterless primarily in the industry. So you pick one of those. There's very few things that aren't just, that everybody goes to a different shelf and gets off and puts on his fire truck. So I was able to match up the major components piece for piece, and this was the final price, almost $200,000 more, which I expected. Pierce is known to run a little bit higher. And we have a Pierce that's only 7 years old, and we've had some issues with that over the years. So none of them are perfect. It's a highly technical piece of equipment. And I'm very comfortable that if we wanted to go with Pierce, they're going to tell me to go back through that book again and come up with this price, or come up with a price off their list.
So, Mr. Mayor, the reason I wanted to go back to this is because Mr. Burmeister, having been a former fire chief, mentioned it's not unusual to see prices coming in at 100,000 either way off of $1 million. Well, this one was 200,000 more, and that one was competitively bid. So I think that should provide some level of confidence that we are getting a price that is typical in the marketplace.
Yeah, thank you for that. But by all means, Mr. Kittle, I understand, what you're saying. If this was, an item that you could very easily, go down and like a dump truck or something and only have one bid, then, I would definitely be a little bit more concerned. Not to say that I'm not concerned that we only had one bid, but I believe that the due diligence was done here to the best of the ability of the staffs. And in the presentation to take it even a step further, as Mr. Tangi had alluded to, is I'm comfortable with, so.
Yeah, and just the last comment, and, to some extent, I think I'm mixing, two issues together here, and, the fire truck is the fire truck. And when the motion comes out, it doesn't have anything about the prepay or any options. It's strictly to purchase the truck. And that's going to pass tonight. The truck's going to go through. But I think from a broader picture standpoint, to me, it's more of a policy. It's an administrative policy on purchasing things. And maybe there needs to be some monetary threshold. But, if you go into Mitten, and Jim, this isn't your cup of tea. I mean, you're a fire chief. I mean, and you're doing the best you can with what you have. But you can go into Mitten and do searches, and you can figure out every community, of 1,846 communities in the state, who bought a fire truck on Mitten for probably the last 5 years, and see what kind of things are out there. And it also just goes into, trying to find out when a proposal is created, to create it in such a way that you're going to draw as much competition into the thing as possible. And you might come out with the same results. And it might be a $999,000 truck from these folks here, but at least you'll have some other data and some competitive posturing that you'd understand it more. And that's more my point, and I've talked about that for probably 10 years, and I think it just comes out in spades a little bit here.
Point well taken, Mr. Kittle. Council, if there aren't any further questions or comments, we open for a motion to approve the purchase or not approve.
Your Honor.
Mr. Burmeister.
Move to approve the purchase of the proposed Rosenbauer 100-foot mid-mount ladder truck as proposed by Emergency Vehicles Plus in the amount of $999,044.
Moved by Mr.
Do we need
Burmeister?
to include which way we want to purchase it?
Mr. Tangi, would you like some direction on which, maybe we could do two separate motions? Let's do two separate motions. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, if I
Sure.
can speak to that real quick. When I spoke to Michelle Schultz, the finance director, earlier today, she said that she would recommend the payment option as you go, the threshold payments. That was her recommendation.
Ms. Schultz is in the audience.
Okay.
If
Just a head nod will be good, Ms. Schultz. Okay, so we'll do them separate. So this is the motion Mr. Burmeister's made to approve the purchase. It's supported by Ms. Rebecki. Is there any further discussion or comment around that? We are ready to vote.
Mr. Burmeister,
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki,
Yes.
Ms. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Kittle, Mr. Knight,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel,
Yes.
motion
All right,
carries.
so now how are we going to pay for it? We'll need a motion for the payment, and for the record, it has been noted by Chief Manning that our finance director has asked that we make the purchase as we go, I guess is the best terminology for that. Once a chassis is built, there's a payment, and as they meet certain criteria.
Your Honor.
Mr. Burmeister.
I'll move to purchase this apparatus with the pay-as-you-go plan as recommended by our finance director.
Okay, moved by Mr. Burmeister. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Ms. Hammond. Any further discussion or comment? Mr. Knight?
Yes, the motion said that was the finance director's recommendation. Okay, good.
Okay. Any further? We're ready to vote.
Mr. Burmeister,
Yes.
Ms. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Kittle,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Verbecki,
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel,
Yes.
motion carries.
Mr. Coulter and Mr. Parker, thank you, both of you gentlemen, for attending and answering the questions. We greatly appreciate it.
On behalf of Rosenbauer and Emergency Vehicles, we'd like to thank you as well.
Okay, thank you. Have a great evening. Item 10, comments and motions from council. Go first over to you, Mr. Kittle.
Thank you. I thought I'd talk about procurement policies. No, I'm just kidding. The BAC Awards dinner, we've been talking about doing something different, and the recommendation is that we have, first off, there's very few people that, any nominations. I think the number was 17 last we added them up. So things have changed. We're trying to figure out, the big dinner concept is gone. So we've talked about having a BAC Awards here at Council Chambers. Kevin, you and I talked about that. Share it with the rest of the council and have a little ceremony afterwards with the hors d'oeuvres, like we do for some of the different events. And the group was pretty excited about that being a good plan B. And so we had kicked out a date of September 25th. So I don't know how that fits, with budget season and everything going else, but I just thought I'd throw that around. They'd like to do it here. This little investment sheet was actually pretty handy. I like that, and I would just ask if it's each one of the line items that has square feet on it. I don't know who created this, but is it possible we could put square feet in a column so those could be added up too?
Mr. Cohen doesn't even know that I passed that out tonight, but he shared that for another purpose today. So I don't know, I would assume we can get that off the site plan.
Yeah, we can definitely, you like to have the square footage separated?
Yeah, that way you can total them up, like the total investment is 502 million or something, and how many square feet does that represent? It'd be a quick sum,
Not a problem.
That'd be pretty handy. I would say the Opdyke Bridge thing to me is just a little bit of a sore spot. We've all, have issues with the cement trucks rumbling through our little downtown area and the dirt over there and that. And those guys do have a little bit of a legitimate beef, as far as not being able to access that certain way out, coupled with the I-75 construction. But I would just, if we're gonna spend any money on our roads downtown, that maybe we just do some patching until that we can relieve some of the congestion through there. So I don't know, through the corridor, Auburn Road from, Squirrel Court through Squirrel and out, and even up North Squirrel. I mean, I don't know if it's feasible, but if we're not gonna be able to do anything to reduce the number of those trucks that are rumbling through there, maybe it makes sense to delay some of those major repairs that we had on the books. So just thought I'd mention that, and that's all I had.
Mr. Mayor, can I just comment on a couple things? I believe we're sort of running these things sort of simultaneously. I mean, we're waiting for word on the Opdyke Bridge. But if I'm not mistaken, aren't we funded from an outside source for the Auburn Road work? Is there funding for that? I mean, are we at risk of losing something if we were to delay the work Mr. Kittle is referencing?
Good evening again. The funding that the city has secured to date for Auburn Road is from the Opdyke to Churchill portion, and that's not till 2020. The section that we had planned that was proposed for next year throughout the downtown was part of the bond package.
Okay, all right. So just to provide some clarity on that. I understand exactly where you're going with it. I would just hate to lose some sort of funding opportunity if we were holding off, but it doesn't sound like that, other than it is part of our bond issue. So,
Since we're on the truck traffic, at the last meeting, I believe Chief Oka was going to do some research on these trucks that are driving on our shoulders and our sidewalks because they can't make the turning radius. And I guess my question is there any type of enforcement that we can take? It does not seem right that it would be allowable to just drive on our sidewalks and curbs.
I certainly can understand your concern. However, we were not able to find anything in the motor vehicle statutes that we thought would be applicable and would be sustained by the court.
Okay.
and then one other thing I wanted to comment, Mr. Kittle mentioned September 25th for an event with beautification here. We are scheduled for the budget August 28th and September 11th. So assuming we get through the budget in those two meetings, which we have in the past, and we don't have to go beyond that, September 25th should work. So if you want to consider that information in making your decision, September 25th should work.
Well, that would just be awards and presentations or whatever at the front too, right? Item 5?
Yeah,
we can take a little
correct
break or something. Okay.
And we could take a short, recess to do that. Okay. Mr. Burmeister?
Yesterday I was in the Churchill area. I didn't see any coyotes there, but I was wearing sidearms, so I was just being safe. But there, one of the residents I was talking to got a coyote pamphlet from the city. They stated that their pamphlet was extremely hard to read because it was gray on gray or black. So I don't know if there's anything, I didn't see them or wasn't aware of them.
There's a link on there to actually download that pamphlet online directly from the Michigan DNR's website. So that's what I would encourage residents to do.
And it was also on the main page of our website. So it can be read from our website.
We actually took it upon ourselves to just kind of provide that information that was provided to us.
No, I think it's great that we did that. Not everyone uses the websites.
Correct.
So they count on those. And I don't know if I missed it or not, but the Bloomfield Orchards grass cutting issue, Mr. Tangi, the Bloomfield Orchards grass cutting issue, where are we at with that? Did I miss something, or has it been addressed or completed yet?
Well, Mr. Grice is on vacation this week, and I know that he has been addressing it. I think we did inform the neighborhood association that, like all other neighborhood associations, we did not have plans to continue maintaining those rights or those rights of way or boulevards or. I'm not aware of any situation in most communities where the community is taking care of neighborhood boulevards such as those. And I think that's the last communication that we had with the gentleman who represented the association here before council.
Okay, I just want to make sure the communication has gotten back to him, and I do agree with you that the homeowners association should be responsible for their own.
Well, not only that, but it's just certainly the level of maintenance that would occur there would be a far cry from what can be done by homeowners or a contractor that they hire who would be able to focus on that on a regular basis. And I think the thing that you need to think about also is do it for one and be prepared for the rest of the requests. You'd actually have to hire new staffing to do it.
Mr. Tangi, to that note, were we going to get, or do we need to get an attorney's opinion around that? I know that that request was actually made, and I just want to be able to, rather than that request, just continue to linger out there to address it.
I'd be shooting from the hip at this point. Mr. Gray's handled that issue, and he's not here tonight, so I'd need to follow up at the next council meeting.
That's perfectly fine. Thank you. All set, Mr. Burmeister? Yes. Ms. Verbecki? Yeah. Okay. All set? Okay. Ms. Hammond?
Okay, well, a couple of mine have already been talked about, but I'm gonna go even farther. Since getting back into town, I noticed the truck traffic now because of the bridge problem. They're coming off of onto Squirrel Road. We have no signage there that says no downtown, you know, trucks are forbidden downtown unless it's a local delivery. And I've seen them cutting the curbs and everything else, trying to make those tight turns. I think even temporary signage there, letting the truck drivers know, because I don't think that they know at that point coming down that way that they're not supposed to be there. We need to make some effort to stop them from coming off on Squirrel Road exit there and heading south, instead of saying maybe go north to where you have more room to cut across to where you need to go. The other was, I was going to question about, was the coyote mailing only done in the Churchill area?
Yes, it was, I think about 5 streets, Churchill, Gannon, Robert Court, Guananacqua, and DeRay, or what it was?
Delray.
DeRay, okay.
And thank you for pronouncing Guananacqua correctly. Okay, and that, you want me to spell it real quick?
Go ahead.
Chief, I thank you again for addressing the issues that were brought up with the supposed photographer at Great Lakes there. Do we know was the media contacted before police were contacted, or anyone at the mall knew about this?
We understand that she did contact the 2 TV stations. We were never contacted. She did talk to a maintenance employee of Great Lakes Crossing who contacted their security. And that at that point, everybody involved was gone. So we were never contacted.
So we were never contacted at all?
We did contact her later after we saw the news item.
Okay, because I'm still seeing things on Facebook and whatnots, and it's confusing to look at the topic of the link, even though you had addressed it, it still looks like something sinister had happened there. And people are still commenting that, oh, you know, and it goes back again, they're all saying, oh yeah, well, you know, there's still that, you know, human trafficking and all that going on up there. So it just baffles me in this day and age that people go to such lengths to, instead of getting the correct results, go about the media instead. That was my only thing this evening.
I'll agree with you, Ms. Hammond. It's beyond me why you would wait if there was seriously a serious concern, particularly when it comes to one's own child, that you would wait to notify the police, but then instead notify someone else who has no authority to, in essence, help you. So I would just encourage anyone, and I'm sure the chief would encourage anyone, that if you see something or you feel that there is something going on or there's a gut feeling there, it is better to call and not need us than to need us and not call us. So do not, the first call should definitely never be to the news media or anyone else. It should be to the police, where we have units ready to respond in a very quick manner. So with that, Mr. Knight.
Comment on the short turns in that. A few years back when we redid the corner turning by the Boys and Girls Club into the school, we put in a sloped curb. We got rid of curb. It's just a thing, and I would expect that every city curb in our city in the future should not be a curb. You know, I know we put the walkway in for that, but those corners, when we rebuild a downtown, we need to rebuild those curbs so trucks, because the trucks ain't going to go out into the middle of the road, and that's a way you solve that. And comment on the trucks that are local. I chased those last time. Those trucks coming off of 59 are all local trucks. They're going to the cement work. They're double bottoms going into they were doing something at the apartments there. Those are all local trucks. We can't keep them out. But just comment. I took my great-granddaughter to the stream program that we had last week, and my daughter stayed and helped out, and that went very well. And your comments were very well that you put on email in response to that. I appreciated that one. Appreciate the good job they did at signage at the Friday night concerts. That was well done, well thought out, and I didn't see anybody with a bottle Friday night. Now, I wasn't looking that much, but every time I looked around, I never saw a bottle. And I thought there was a little thin on the attendance, and so I don't, But that was handled very well, and I appreciate the work was done there. Question for our development thing. Do we anticipate any development along Lapeer Road east of the landfill? See, now we're doing this hotel across the road. And we couldn't develop on the west side of the road for years because they stored all their dirt there. Well, that dirt's gone. Is there any possibilities of that developing, or is the landfill deterring that?
We have not heard anything as far as new development. We do know that, I believe it's till 2021, that there's a non-compete with McDonald's for other type of restaurants to locate there. So at this point, we've never been contacted by a developer to develop that, and we know that has that property restriction.
If you read some of your minutes, there was some questions in the thing about landfill zoning on the master plan. When landfill zoning was developed, it was developed as a zoning classification for zoning. It didn't really have anything that was never intended to be on the master land use plan. There was a question about, well, why wasn't it on the plan? I suppose it could be, but it was never intended when that particular classification. It was meant to show every place in the city that has junk underneath. And we haven't been as diligent, in my opinion, on locating those spots and having that zoning on there so you know. However, our Brownfield Development Group commissioned a $2,500 study, which I said, you, Steve, probably knew more than the study, locating every suspicious site in the city and to do that. And so I just wanted to report that our committee is doing that. And maybe someday we want to do something. For example, they're celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Detroit riots and that. And we do have all the building material on the corner there of 75 going on to 59. That site was raised about 8 to 10 feet. It was flat when I came here with debris as part of that. Well, there aren't many of us left that are going to remember that. And so it probably can develop sometime. It'll go down a lot of things. But I just want to mention that we are trying to ascertain every site that can have some kind of a problem on it.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple, but I will try to be brief here. First, I wanted to express appreciation to Borg Warner for the hospitality that they showed us on July 14th. We had an opportunity to tour their technical center here in Auburn Hills, and it's really an outstanding facility, and they handled it very professional and was very welcoming of us. So wanted to thank them for that. Also wanted to thank the Council of Rochester Hills for hosting a really valuable training session for me. I think having a refresher is always valuable, and based upon the information that was shared, I would be willing to have some consideration about perhaps adjusting the amount of time that we allocate to public comments, as well as the practice that we have for approving minutes from our executive session. Just some food for thought based upon that feedback. Want to compliment the innovative Touch a Truck event that was hosted by DPW in the library. I thought that was a fun way to connect the public to the more operational side of the city. So hopefully we can do similar events in the future. Congratulations in regards to the 2017 Planning Excellent Award for Best Practices and recognition of the city's age-friendly action plan. I know we put a lot of effort into that, but it's getting a lot of recognition, and I think rightfully so. So it's nice to see that take place. Want to thank the Tifa board. I was glad to see the approval of the purchase of the artificial Christmas tree at the July meeting. And then Chief Oko, I was wondering if you might be able just to remind everyone about the specifics for National Night Out that's coming up.
Thank you. National Night Out is August 1st this year, Tuesday, August 1st. And it's a little bit different than prior years in that we are going to hold 3 simultaneous events throughout the city. One will be at the Den downtown, one here at the Public Safety Building, and then one at Target. So there'll be fun things to do, and we want to highlight the relationship between the community and the police department. So we look forward to seeing people from 6 to 8 at those 3 locations on August 1st.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I know our community has always been very supportive of that, as well as some of our surrounding neighbors. So thank you for sharing that. And then I also understand that applications are being accepted for our Citizens Police Academy.
Yes, we're accepting applications now through August 12th. The application form is on our website. And Citizens Police Academy will be a great opportunity to learn more about the police here in Auburn Hills. It runs from September 21st through November 9th on Thursday evenings for 2 hours. So we welcome applicants and encourage people to come to our website to learn more about it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. Similar to what Councilmember Knight talked about, just want to congratulate the Kids First initiative on the recently held Youth STEAM event. It was great to have that in Auburn Hills, and I got some pictures. It looks like the students were really enjoying science, and so I always appreciate seeing that. And then in addition to the conversation that we've been having about the truck traffic for semi-trucks, I mean, sometimes I feel like the semi-trucks are taking over our city. I'm still noticing the parking that we have on the corner of Auburn and Opdyke. So I'm not sure if we have started communicating. I saw some signs there, but if we can start more communication about that's not a parking lot, you know, for semi-trucks, that would be appreciative. And then lastly, I noticed that we received this letter here from our Congressman Trott. Looks like he is nominating young people to attend military service academies. And the nominations can be submitted up to September 15th. So if anyone is interested in that, he has details on his website, or you can email me and I'll be happy to provide you specifics. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Ms. Rebecca found an item.
I did, one item. For those folks who don't travel to the northwest side of town very often, just wanted to make a note that Brown Road is under construction. The northern part of the road, which Mr. Brisson has more details about it. Just this week, the Joslyn Road the turn left onto Brown Road was reduced to 1 lane. So when you're traveling in that area, just to be cautious of that. Anything that you wanted to add? Do we have an idea of how long that project is going to go?
The project is expected to be completed by mid to late October of this year. So it's about a 68-day project. That was from the pre-construction meeting. They were supposed to start a week ago. Last Monday, they actually started on Friday. So technically, they're already just a few days behind. But a lot of work's been done over the weekend.
Okay, thank you. And so just so people know, it will be done before the holidays come and all the crazy shopping days are here.
That is what was discussed in the Orion Township meeting, yes.
Okay, that was all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And seeing as how it was reminded me about this truck traffic, I do have one clarification. So if someone can help me here, if not, you need to get back to it, then that's fine too. But the reason why we cannot deter truck traffic from going through our downtown is because we get funding for those roads. Is that correct? Does anyone know?
Mr. Judici is sort of nodding his head. I do recall that we talked about this in the past, and I don't know if maybe no one is prepared to give a definitive answer tonight, but I do recall that one of the main conversations about this in the past is that those roads are rated and funded in a way that prevent us from limiting that truck traffic. So I think that's something obviously without any positive head nods tonight, we'll look into further.
Okay, that's great. And just something to think about, if it is in fact because of receiving funding, that I would like maybe council to give some thought to and staff to give some thought to is, I wonder as we have a TIFA district down there, right? And we have a DDA as we start to capture more funding and reinvesting that funding and having more sources of funding in essence to put those improvements down there. If we may be looking into the future better off to not accept that funding, utilizing our own funding to do those road improvements where we can deter that traffic. Because I'm wondering if even though we're getting funding and we're matching funding, right, would we be the same or maybe even better off if we didn't have the abuse on those roads, and then if we can, in essence, paid for it ourselves. So just food for thought. Maybe we can look into it, have staff look into it just to see if that's a possibility. But we spend a lot of time making our downtown look so good, and to have this continual maintenance in terms of trucks, in essence, damaging the property, damaging our roads, and not have any type of recourse, then I'm more so apt to move forward and not accept those funds, and then just be able to deter the traffic and keep the abuse off of our downtown roads. Sure. Ms. Rebecca has a quick comment, and then I'll come to you, Mr. Knight.
Mitchell.
I'm sorry, Ms.
That's okay.
Mitchell.
No, just on that note, I just would say I would be willing to have that conversation because I cannot think of any vibrant downtown that has that amount of truck traffic that goes through it. If you want any area to be walkable and accessible, then people are not going to be receptive to that if they have, large semi trucks going back and forth.
Great. Mr. Knight?
We put in a deterrent on through truck traffic, and our attorney has allowed us to do that. We can do that. However, 90% of the truck traffic is local, is our truck, and you cannot prevent a person coming into the city on city, business. You can't stop them.
And I'm not talking about the local deliveries, right? I'm talking about utilizing different routes, particularly for the trucks that are carrying cement, gravel, so on and so forth, going up and down Auburn Road from when there are definitely other ways of getting to those businesses.
Yeah, because that's all local traffic, and the only way they would do is have to come in from the south and come down Auburn.
Okay, so Mr. Kittle.
I just have to throw in 2 cents too. I was up in Oxford for dinner last week, and they've got a pretty good little downtown thing going there, Oxford Village, and you want to talk about truck traffic, they've got them gravel trains coming through there, rattle your teeth, but,
I stand corrected then. I haven't hung out there, yeah.
Okay, I think we're good on that. City Attorney's report. city manager's report.
I haven't reported on much in the last couple of meetings, so I'm going to make up for it tonight. First of all, and the Chief Manning can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe yesterday we started our 24-hour shifts.
That would be Saturday, start of the pay period.
Saturday, okay. So I point that out just so that City Council and the citizens know now that we are covered 24/7, 365 at all three stations. And that's worth noting because the citizens got behind our millage election last year and supported this, and this was one of the expectations and outcomes. So that's in place now. Just to expand a little bit on something that Ms. Mitchell mentioned earlier, which was our Planning Excellence Award from the Michigan Association of Planning. Wanted to mention that a jury of certified planners in Florida were the ones who reviewed the many entries and determined that submittal by Auburn Hills of our age-friendly action plan will receive the Best Practice Award. There have been a lot of people that were involved in this process, but I wanted to specifically recognize our Senior Services Director, Karen Adcock, and Community Development Director, Steve Cohen, for their leadership on this issue. Again, citizen staff, business representatives, the mayor and city council, and the planning commission certainly played key roles in our receiving this award, but a little extra attention on Karen and Steve. And speaking of awards, our staff was informed last week that a nomination that we submitted to the Michigan Association of Municipal Attorneys for the Distinguished Municipal Attorney Award was reviewed and voted unanimously to award our very own city attorney, Dirk Beckerleg, as this year's Distinguished Municipal Attorney. That nomination cost him plenty. Don't kid yourself. I have to say, in my 27 years in local government management, I can state with confidence that Mr. Beckerleg is really among the best of the best and is without question very deserving of this recognition. Although I called that into question after early in the meeting, he answered a question by saying, yes, maybe. So.
Which I ultimately corrected to yes.
So, I also wanted to mention that today I authored a blog titled The Honor of Firsts. Now, I understand we were having access problems to our blog, so I don't know if it got posted today, but the blog talks about a number of businesses that have recently chosen Auburn Hills to be their first location in Michigan in which to locate their business. Most recently, Auburn Hills was selected for the next Top Golf, a high-tech golf and entertainment venue that is sure to be a hit. Anyone who wishes to learn more about Top Golf or wants to see what it looks like can visit our community development blog at auburnhillsdevelopment.com and scroll down to our July 13th entry. In cooperation with the Chamber of Commerce, we are finalizing our work on a corporate endorsement video with a number of business leaders talking about their experience conducting business in Auburn Hills. This initiative has been led by Stephanie Carroll and Kyle Sislowitz from Community Relations and should be ready and available for sharing in September. And finally, our 2018 budget process is moving along very efficiently. Nearly all the departments have had their budgets reviewed at staff and management levels, and we will be ready for City Council's public review at our first budget workshop scheduled for Monday, August 28th.
Thank you, Mr. Tangi. Sure, Mr. Knight.
Can you tell me where our bench is?
The Optimist bench?
City Council bench. Well, both of them.
It's right across the street in front of, I think it's south of City Hall on the other side of the street.
I think you can actually sit on it and then look in the city manager's office.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I just...
No, it's not in Rochester
I
Hills.
just like to know where all the benches are.
Rochester?
Yeah, that would be great. Can we put it on the city of Rochester Hills' campus?
No, it is on the east side of the road. And I thought you were talking about the Optimist Club, which I believe I saw that one north up near Tinkin.
So if you want to make Mr. Tangi nervous, just go sit on that bench and look in his window. All right, we'll need a motion to go into executive session regarding an attorney's opinion letter. Moved by Mr. Becky. Do we have support? Supported by Mr. Burmeister. We're ready to vote.
Ms. Verbecki?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister? Yes. Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Convene from executive session at 10:24. Motion to adjourn, moved by Ms. Mitchell, supported by Ms. Rebecca. All in favor?
Aye.
Those that oppose, meeting is adjourned.